All right. House of the Dragon season 3 just dropped, and this is my reaction. So many people just zoned out of this. It feels like. Do people still watch this? But, it looks like it's a decent direction for this show. Finally, something happening in this. So many people that I introduced this show to, like friends and stuff, they started the first season. They were like, "This is some good television. Thank you for showing me this. This is a banger. This is undervalued. It's underrated." And then it just started meandering back and forth, just stalling things for time, just nonstop. Now, this trailer, right? What is it? First of all, you have an opening like a battlefield. Dragons are burning everything left and right. You got just bodies burning on the ground, and then you have Rhaenyra. She's saying she doesn't want any more bloodshed. So it's obvious she wants to de-escalate things. She wants to go back to how things were in the past, the way the peace times were. There's no going back anymore. The HBO, they finally have the budget for these battles that we were waiting for from the beginning. Just get it on, finally. And here's something that I'm going to say that's slightly different. Okay, this might be a hot take, but I actually liked how slow this show was. I liked it. I liked the talking, the psychological stuff, the fact that it was just 2 or 3 characters in a room. We already had Game of Thrones. Everybody liked that. It was super mainstream to the point where it just devolved into pointless humor and just nonsensical banter and whatever. It just wasn't that good anymore. So finally, watching something that had like good dialogue, you have to appreciate the dialogue of the show. That's always like, it's pretty good. There are no cringe lines that you can see from this show being paraded everywhere, right? There are no memes of how bad the writing is. In general, it's good writing, it's good storytelling. That's not what's holding this show back. That's not the thing. That's not the problem at all. But at some point, it got way too much. Right? There was just way too much talking. There was just way too much meandering. Finally, in this season, you watch these characters, season 3, you watch them unravel. So from the beginning of the trailer, you have Rhaenyra saying she doesn't want to escalate things further. And then finally, the trailer ends with her trying to find Aegon. Aegon, he's all burned up. He's hiding in some cave. She's like, we need to find this usurper. So finally, she's not the same person from season 2. There's finally some interesting transformation that's military adjacent, because season 2, right? You have Rhaenyra going to Alicent and vice versa. And they're basically visiting each other at their respective castles. Nobody is getting captured. No one is suffering any consequences. They're bypassing the guards. They're the most famous people in this entire show, this entire realm. And they're visiting each other without any consequences. I know I said there's no bad writing, but that was the only thing when I watched that and I was like, what is this? I can only suspend my belief so much. In this 3rd season, I hope there's none of that stuff anymore, because you start to see the cracks in the story when you're trying to stall so much, okay? And the characters are trying to be so diplomatic and so friendly with each other that by virtue of not too many things happening, it does become bad writing. You're just writing yourself into a corner at some point because you need the tension to get somewhere. You can't just stay here nonstop. And that's what this show has been doing, just teasing the audience for 2 seasons straight. And finally, is it too little too late? Now finally you get the action and the battles, and they're finally using the budget. Is it too late now? Because season 2, you could have had some of that stuff there. Okay, you didn't have to end it on a cliffhanger. You did not have to do that. You did not have to have it just be build up. I don't actually remember anything from season 2 almost, other than Aegon being burned and falling from the sky. from his dragon and still somehow surviving. How did that guy survive that? Can someone tell me, is there like any gravitational explanation for how he managed to get through that? Other than that, and that happened like in episode 4, there was not much happening. This season looks like it's the opposite of that, where you have so much happening. It looks exciting. It looks good. It finally looks like what people would want in a show like this. They would want dragons and fights and fire just breathing down everywhere. All the characters are against each other. Rhaenyra and Daemon look like they are against each other. Everyone's just at each other's throats, right? Because this is fundamentally a story about a good kingdom, a good king in a good kingdom who gets everything basically handed to him, and he messes up so badly, royally, if you will. He just messes up completely because by virtue of being so good and kind, he actually goes into being weak, and he's just like a weak king who messes up his family and messes up everything. Because a good king is not necessarily a good person, you know. That's kind of like what this story is trying to hint at. And so, of course, it's not going to be Game of Thrones. There's going to be a lot of talking and a lot of psychological drama and relationships and stuff like that. But the pacing of the show was kind of bad. You have to agree. Like season 1, you have the child actors, and then in episode 6, those actors are gone, and now suddenly there's a time skip and they're all grown up. I hope there's none of that in this season. Like the writing has to be on point. The timing, the pacing has to be good, which means that when I saw this trailer, I felt like there were so many action scenes, and that's good. People are going to like that probably. But is it going to be too much is the question. Because if you remember Game of Thrones, one of the biggest caveats to that show in season 5, 6, 7, and 8 was basically the fact that there was just too much going on. There was too much action there. And there was so much action that it was badly choreographed. The fight scenes started to suck. And at the same time, you had characters traveling across the entire map off screen. So once you have too much action and too little character development, which this show could be like veering into that direction with this trailer, like there was not a single peaceful moment in this trailer, which is kind of exciting, but at the same time, it makes you think, are they going the exact opposite direction? And is it just now going to be completely chaotic with zero character development, and they have to wrap up the story as quickly as possible? I hope not. But other than that, right, you saw the different armies. You saw some different characters in this trailer on a battlefield. And you saw Aegon, and then you saw his brother, who's now in charge. Now he's in power. And his name... Guys, you cannot expect me to remember absolutely every character for these reactions, okay? I cannot remember every person's character. Age is getting to me. So, what was his name? The guy with the blindfold. Yeah, this is embarrassing, but I really remember very much his character, right? He is very aggressive in certain ways, but he's also humanized in a very good way. In season 2, the son of Alicent, basically, you see him in charge for like a split second. All these characters, you see them for a split second, and then it's back to the dragons in the fire. So that really makes me think, hopefully they don't go all out and just forget about the writing, the character transformation, the plot lines, all that stuff, you know? Hopefully they don't just go full on characters just, again, transporting off screen, because that's another thing with this type of show like Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon. You have so many different characters, and you have to think about how do they transport each other and how do they move, and what's one character doing in this scene where you don't see them. And when you don't see them, it has to be something that's either not interesting or inconsequential, or you don't need to show. So there's a lot here, a lot to think about, and a lot to expect really from a show like this. And that's why George R. R. Martin can't finish these books, because they really raised the ceiling very early on. Like House of the Dragon raised the ceiling very much in the first season, and now they have a big job with catching up to that. But yeah, this looked like a decent trailer. It looked exciting with a lot of traps and caveats. Let me know what you think. Do you think that the writing is going to stay consistent, or do you think it's just going to drop off? But yeah, that's the House of the Dragon season 3 trailer reaction. Bye.